to the Coop and Hatch podcast, episode 2. Thanks for showing up, and thank you for all the support that you guys gave us on episode 1. That was crazy. Within 2 days, we had over 100 views, I think, or something like that, which is like nutty.
Thanks for all the shares as well.
Yeah, that's like huge. So if you guys can keep that up, that'd be great. If you want to follow our path a little bit more, we're on Instagram. We've made a TikTok. We've got a Discord. Pretty much almost any social media you can think of, we're on. Our Facebook, obviously. But yeah, we're gonna hop into this episode. I'm pretty excited for it because this is something that I think is gonna have a really big impact to notice, which would be kind of cool. And
this is a good one.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about I call it almost like a car scene rebirth. So we're gonna talk about different phases in the car scene. He's lived through quite a few of them, so it's a good point of view from his point. I've worked on a lot of them, like literally not even an hour ago. So we'll go a little bit into that. Sorry if we look dirty. It's literally it's 87 Dodge D100 grease all over us. So this is part of it. But yeah.
She's still not back together, but
not
close.
yet. She's getting there. Who knew a 318 is different in every vehicle?
Yes.
But yeah, let's hop into it. We're gonna skip the first phase, which is like when cars first came into play, so that would have been like the Model T, like Ford Deluxes, and that 20s era to
30s.
Yeah, almost into like the 50s, like the 55 Chev Bel Air. That's a great car, but we're just gonna kind of skip that because that is a topic everyone's heard of. Everyone knows about it. If you want us to go more into it, let us know in the comments. I'm totally down to do that because that's all about pre-war cars, and pre-war cars are crazy. Let's say everyone was a mad scientist at that point. So that is a cool subject we can get into, but we're gonna skip to the 60s and 70s, just because that's where a lot of, I think, the car scene really became a scene rather than not just a community. So it kind of really grew because of the pony cars, muscle cars. And so the pony cars, muscle cars, they were developed by the big three, Ford, Chevy, and Chrysler / Dodge.
/ Plymouth.
Yeah, Plymouth, all those, Mercury, all those. So, but yeah, let's kind of get into what a pony car is. And so, first off, we're gonna say, what's your favorite pony car? It's a weird one.
My favorite is the AMC AMX. First version, not the Javelin. Yes.
Super interesting car. AMC, never made technically their own car parts. They took a bunch of other car parts. So they basically took like Chevy rear axles, Ford. Was it a Ford motor that was in that?
I don't remember.
But like there's like
90.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of Dodge parts on them and stuff too. They were weird. AMC was an interesting company to say the least. But then we also have the classics like, here we have a Challenger, Firebird, obviously the Mustang Fastback, we've got the Cuda, that is the AMC right there. In that orange one, we got the Camaro, we've got the Cougar, again.
Yeah, I was driving down the street,
Mm-hmm.
There's a house that has 2 AMCs sitting in the front yard.
Just finding one AMC is insane.
I know, they have 2. One outside, one under a cover.
That's crazy. When we grew up, someone in our neighborhood actually had an AMC. Is it Eagle? An AMC?
Yeah,
the lifted one? Yeah, this was a 4x4 car. Yeah. Freaking weird. You can get in a coupe. Those are freaking cool. The XV or SX4, I think it's called. Super cool car.
I don't remember. As a kid, they were weird just because you don't have a 4-door
As
car.
they are now, they're weird. That's so funky.
Did I say AMC? Guy has 2 AMXs.
Oh, he has 2 AMXs, not just an AMC.
Yeah,
Finding an AMC Javelin isn't like difficult, but it's not like it's just not really a priority. But to find 2 AMXs in one
1 yard.
Yard. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, I was at Sunday school, and after Sunday school, I came out of Sunday school, and there was a big truck and a big trailer with an AMX drag car. I didn't know a whole lot about it, but I waited for the owner to come out.
I mean, it's a drag car. You can obviously tell a cool car when it's a cool car.
Yeah, so I was probably like 7, 8 at this time, and the owner came out, and he had pictures of it, an 8x10 picture that he signed for me.
Oh, that's sick.
And one day, just out of the blue, we were talking about what my favorite pony car was versus his, and the difference and why. And so I just randomly did a Google search on Sheriff of Nottingham AMX race car, and sure enough, the guy posted a video from him getting interviewed on the San Diego News Channel talking about that car.
Yeah,
so
it's
he got
crazy.
to see the car that I fell in love with as a kid.
Well, it's weird to see not just, oh, I love the AMX. It was literally that car that caused it. And this guy, like, look up this YouTube video. It is so sick. I will actually link it just because, like, it's almost like an original car and driver interview with a builder. Like, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was the actual car, and seeing that 50 years later.
Yeah, that's nuts, dude.
Because if I was 8, that would have been 50 years
yeah,
ago.
and that's like
to see that car on YouTube.
Yeah, that's.
I just thought there's going to be no way, maybe a picture or a newspaper article or something, but to have a whole video clip of it.
And he does a run too.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, and it's a monster. It sounds so cool.
They used to do 8-mile runs at the what was the San Diego Stadium.
Yeah, the original one, not the new one. Yeah.
Do they even have the new one built yet?
I don't know.
Haven't been there in a while. So
yeah, it's been a minute. So during the 60s and, well, mainly the 60s, pony cars were a huge thing. And so that's what everyone kind of focused on. But the cool thing was in Japan, this is when they started kind of getting into their cars as well. And so you have things like, this is the top left one, that is a... I think it's called the Honda 800S, if I remember right, or S800, which means it's just 800 cc's. So literally it was like a motorcycle motor. And then you have, this is probably my favorite one, is the 2000 GT, the Toyota. Oh man, like the curves on that thing, delicious. But then you have a bunch of other ones. Notably is the Datsun, which is Nissan now, Fairlady. And that one's important because it was originally a car, and now it is a special edition of a car. So it kind of, the name was so important that they just they evolved it into the Z bodies, which is super cool. Which that we'll get more into in the 70s.
You know, that Toyota sure reminds me of a Jag XKE.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. It's a big, nice swoopy lines.
Yeah. So.
With a big long hood. That's a great style on a car. Other notable ones I think are really cool. Obviously, we have an orange Skyline right there. The Skyline's iconic because, I mean, it's a Skyline. So, like, it's pretty freaking awesome. And it's kind of cool that they did the same thing with the GTR badge. So you could get a Skyline GTR. And then the GTR in 2009 became its own model of car. So they did it backwards from the Fairlady, which is kind of interesting. And it's still Nissan doing that. And then the Mazda Cosmo is super interesting too, because that started almost balance is a good way to put it, because that was one of the very few cars at the time that had a really close 50-50 weight distribution, which is really important when you get into how a car handles around a corner. And so it's kind of cool that Mazda was thinking that way in the 60s. So, like, it's cool to see all these iconic cars in, like, where the companies are now, too. But yeah, that's the 60s. I feel like the 60s were pretty straightforward. You had muscle cars or you had a commuter car. Like,
yeah, we had the Camaro, the Mustang, the Challenger.
Those were the Chevelles.
The main big three, but then also the Chevelle, the AMX that we talked about, the Cougar.
Cougars are freaking cool.
Cougars.
Classy Mustang? Yes, please. I mean, it's going to weigh more, but you still get the motor, so
The Barracuda.
Oh, Cudas will forever be cool. No, even so, you have the two generations of the Cuda. Is the small Cuda, then you get the big Cuda. I love the small Cuda. Small Cudas are cool because they have that nice big bubbly window on them.
Yeah,
ooh,
cool style.
And the way it moves too is so interesting. But I think one that gets not a lot of hype, but should, is a Demon. The original Demon. They're super hard to find. They're really cool. But when you think of Demon, you just think of the new Demon. Very few people, I think about the Demon in a 60s muscle car fashion. And I think it deserves the hype, especially now, because they never really talk about, Dodge doesn't talk about the heritage of the Demon name.
Not really, but the early model of the Challenger was also super cool. Real skinny, sleek.
Oh, for sure. And then Australia got a special edition too, which was like a square nose and it had like square blinkers in it. It's really cool.
Australia has the coolest cars.
Oh yeah. Do you know what's the most frustrating thing now? Is Australia gets more muscle cars than we do, and we started it. That's frustrating. Come on, Ford. I need a Ford Falcon right now, immediately. Thank you. But yeah, so that was kind of the two. That's how the 60s were. You had a commuter car or you had a muscle car. There wasn't really anything in the middle. And then you get into the 70s.
Also, then you have Chevy stepping outside the box with the Corvette.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And Ford tried to copy that in the 50s with the T-Bird, but then it went to a big luxury car.
Yeah, and I mean the only thing that they really had that like kind of competed, but like didn't, just because it was almost in a different class, was the GT40. But I mean, you put a Corvette up against any muscle car, and the Corvette's gonna win at that point. But if you put a Corvette up against a GT40, the GT40 is gonna win. So the only other thing I can think of that fought a Corvette at the time was a Shelby Cobra.
Yeah, basically.
And so like outside of that, there was maybe
American made.
I don't know when it came out, but maybe the TVR Griffith, because it ran a Ford motor in it and it was tiny. But I mean, there's also TVR in there. They're not known by a lot of people for a reason. Like,
yep. If you're thinking, what on earth is that? There's always Google.
Yep, and it's a monster of a car. Imagine a Cobra, but like as a hard top and just like super sloped back. It's funky. But yeah. So then you get into the 70s and. Unfortunately, America did not step up when it came to the 70s.
Yeah, they did for the first 3 years. There was some awesome cars produced through 73.
Oh, yeah.
But 74, we had the gas crisis issues and also emissions and safety. So they went away from the steel bumper. And anything after 73 went to a plastic bumper, and the horsepower just died. Like, was it the 79 Corvette was pushing out
198 horsepower
out of a 350? That should be pumping 500, 600, 700
that's
horsepower. Stupid
disappointing, because like a new Camry has more horsepower than that, and that's a 4-cylinder.
I think our little FRS has about that much horsepower.
Yeah,
and that's not a fast car.
Not at all.
Fun car, but not fast.
Yes. So I'm like, it's the 70s. There's only like 2 ways to describe the 70s, and because there's not even like notable cars outside of European cars. European cars, we're not going to talk about them a whole ton in this because they're consistently amazing. Like they're over engineered. Everyone knows that. They know that, but they've never disappointed. Is the thing. So
no doubt.
Yeah. So there's not much of a reason for us to touch on that. Especially since in the 70s, like, European cars were just getting here, and, like, I mean, we had Mercedes and stuff like that, but, like, as a commuter option, that's when they start really flowing in.
Yeah, some of the early Audis and Volkswagen moving away from the Beetle, trying to create more.
GTIs started coming out, what was that, the Mark II, I think, was around, the Scirocco, stuff like that.
Yeah. Late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they helped float the gap of the 70s, but the only way to put the 70s for American muscle is inconvenient, gutless, disappointing,
tin cans.
And the one car that describes it the best is the Mustang, the Cobra 2 Mustang.
Charlie's Angel, blue with
Man.
white stripes.
That I would get one now because of how I can modify it. So I could, like, that thing could totally be a competitor now. But when it came out, like, just disappointing.
Yeah.
So like, it's just not really worth mentioning. But the one car outside of the European world and the American muscle world, I think saved the car scene and is still extraordinarily relevant today, is the Nissan, or at that point, Datsun 240Z.
Iconic car.
Yeah. So this is, that's pretty much the one that stands out. So at that point, that's basically all we got on that. So we'll just skip to the 80s and 90s, because I feel like 80s and 90s is when a really interesting wave of cars came in.
Not so much performance, but styling.
Yeah, super interesting, because in the 80s, like, we got that boxiness, but like also like edgy, which was kind of cool.
Like our Penny, our 87 Dodge truck is just a box.
Just a box. But that thing is like phenomenal. We'll do a video of like a review on that just so you guys can see. It's a really cool slam truck, and it's slammed in an interesting way that would surprise you.
But there just wasn't a lot of shape.
No. And so there's just so many cars that have come out in that time frame that it's hard to list all of them. But there are iconic ones, especially in the 80s. Towards the end, we got some really cool muscle trucks because they were exempt from all the emission laws because they weren't cars. And so Ford, Chevy, and GMC and Dodge
even got in the game.
Yeah, they all went freaking nuts. So our D100 shares the same platform as the Little Red Truck. And Little Red Truck is like an iconic truck because, it was
a short bed step side with wood, farm-looking wood.
Yeah, and it's
railings on the top.
Did that have a built 318? What was in that thing?
I don't remember.
But that thing hauled. Like, the coolest part about that truck, though, is it's a gas-powered car with semi-stacks. Like, exhaust stacks out the back.
Coming up behind the cab.
Behind the cab.
Big chrome stacks.
Just massive. And they're just like, this thing would pull up the drag strips and people would be like, well, we know who won. like, that was it.
Well, I don't know. Put that up against the Ford Lightning.
Oh, man. First gen
454 SS.
True. And the Ford Lightning is an iconic vehicle. Like, they killed it with that one.
Ford truck.
Yeah, and I think at that point it was the SVOs, the Special Vehicle Operations through Ford that did that. And there's SVO like Mustangs and stuff like that too. They're kind of like the
SVO
special
Taurus.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Some of those new Tauruses are not too shabby.
Well, that one wasn't bad for its day either.
True. But I think the truck that set the bar for quite some time, and I
still sets
the bar, is the GMC Cyclone. Freaking amazing vehicle. This thing was unfortunately still tin can. We couldn't get past that part quite yet, and they needed to somehow make these things lighter to get them faster. But this was a 6-cylinder turbo, I believe, that would destroy anything they went up against. It was faster than a Ferrari, like, I think it's the 348 is what they compared it to, and it wrecked it.
Yeah, it was super fast.
Super crazy. So this truck comes out of nowhere, just like, supercars? Nah, I'm a utility vehicle. Like, and then the other cool version of that, of course, is the Typhoon, where they use the Blazer body, so you can get this same thing in an SUV.
Has the S10 Blazer, not the K5.
Yeah, not the big guy, the little one. But the fact that you could still roll up in an SUV, have groceries, 3 kids in the back, your dog, baseballs, anything you can think of, and still be like, Corvette?
No problem.
I'll see you at the other end. Like, just the disrespect that this thing put out was amazing.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the 80s. That's also when, like, Japanese cars really started coming in too. There's a lot of really cool 80s Japanese cars. Supras started showing up. The Skyline, obviously. It did take a hiatus, but they did bring it back towards the end, but that was only in Japan. We also had different style of racing coming out, too, which changed the world.
Really changed the world. Don't forget Subaru was starting to come on.
Yeah, that's, I mean, they had the, what was that, the Brat?
Yeah. No, but also the Impreza was starting.
Kind of. That's what happened was, so in the late 80s, well, I guess early 80s, we had, is when Rally Group B really started to just take over the world, because these guys were building 600 horsepower rear-wheel drive vehicles and flying through the woods. And imagine 80s safety. Like a seatbelt, maybe a fiberglass helmet, but at that point the only places using helmets was like motocross. So they're rocking like motocross helmets. Not great welders at the time, so the cages were probably butane torched together.
You're gonna get a whole bunch of old welders mad at you.
No, what I'm saying is what they built is amazing, because they didn't have the technology that we had. And the fact that these dudes...
Acetylene torch welding a roll
yeah,
in a car.
and here we are with MiGs just like boom, blasting out full cages in hours. These guys spent days doing this. And so like what they did is an art. And especially when you threw it into the Audi Quattro.
One of our favorite all-time...
That car
cars.
is...
It's insane.
It changed the world in multiple ways, because it was one of the very first ones to apply turbos in a performance stance, but to a unheard of level. So like big power was now coming out because of these things.
Also all-wheel drive with big fat fenders and
oh yeah,
just mean looking.
Well, and it was the first production car to have a full actual all-wheel drive system, because everything before that was either four-wheel drive or like they did all-wheel drive in like utility vehicles, but it was the first car to have that, because even if you look back at the AMC that we mentioned, that was still a 4x4 car.
Well, that was about the same time.
Yeah, but the fact that that was the only other option, especially in a coupe.
Yeah.
Like that's obviously you're gonna choose the Quattro. Like duh. But then you get into the 90s, and this is where America was still trying. We did our best. We did come out with two very iconic things at this point. One being the LS motor. I believe that started in the Catfish Camaro. I think those started in like 96 or something. I don't quite remember off the top of my head. But Mustangs were still around, and they were still trying really hard. They at this point were also kind of getting back into the power game, which was kind of cool because
starting. You had the IROC Camaro and the IROC Z Camaro and some. Yeah,
so I mean, there was definitely iconic cars. I mean, the what's the off the top of my head, the Monte Carlo. That was a super cool car, especially
Monte Carlo SS.
Yes, or the Aero SS. The Aero SS had this. They took this Dustin SS and they put like a round window on the back to try to make it more aerodynamic. It's super weird looking, and I think if I remember right, they used one as a pace car once in a race. But yeah, so I mean, we were trying, we were doing our best, and we were doing better. But the Japanese cars were doing way better, and so this is, I mean, this is where cars really started taking over. Off the top of your head, what's like the number one 90s?
I don't know. One of my favorite is like the GT300.
Or the Mitsubishi the 3000 GT.
Yeah, 3000.
That car is incredible. That was a all-wheel drive, V6 twin turbo. But the really cool thing about that car is it was the first car to have active aero on a production car.
Yeah, the wing could come up and down based on speed. So.
And then the lip dropped too.
And then also the Dodge version of that.
Stealth.
The Eagle.
Yeah, the Stealth, because that's when DSM, I think it was Diamond something, I forgot what that stands for, but that's when Dodge and Mercedes, or no, not Mercedes, well they did go together, but not at that point. Mitsubishi came together and made the Eclipse, which was also badged as the Talon, and the Laser, I think, the Plymouth Laser, I'm pretty sure it's the Laser, and then there's the 3000 GT in the Stealth. I don't remember I don't think there was a Plymouth version on that one.
Not that I remember.
But yeah, dude, I totally forgot about that one. That one's super cool.
Yeah, it's a cool car.
It's big.
They had some mechanical issues.
Mainly head gaskets, but
make them super popular.
Yeah.
But still an incredible car, incredible engineering.
Yeah, and then other cars that were coming out that are like icons now, and people like die over them, but were like commuter cars. Was the S chassis on the Nissan at this point, which is what was the S chassis? The 180, the
180, 200, and the
240, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, I think the 200 was. No, that was an S. I believe there's a 200S, but they have so many numbers that
What was that car meet we went to in Long Beach?
Oh, it was just an S chassis one. But there was a bunch of Z bodies there too. So it was like the Z, the 240Z, 280Zs were there. 300. I think it's the SZ or ZS.
I just remember walking around thinking, when these came out, it was a grocery getter. It wasn't a performance car whatsoever. I don't remember ever seeing one at a car show, and it was just a fairly economic, cheap car with great gas mileage and nothing to write home to mom about. But
would it be considered as a secretary car, kind of like how the first Mustang came out and it was a straight 6 auto?
Yeah, like in that movie Ford versus Ferrari when they're talking about, and they're like, this is a secretary car. Nothing against secretaries. That's just
or secretary cars. That's just how they like named them, and so it's not like a derogatory term.
It's not a name we're coming up with.
It's just a term, and so
just a term.
Yeah,
it was just an everyday car, and now you see them. They're amazing drift cars. People are slamming LSs in them, and so it's funny to see cars that when I was a kid or growing up in my 20s. Didn't even hit the radar of a cool car.
Yeah, because I mean, what were you looking for in the 90s? What was like the car you were thinking about getting? Well, if you had the money to get it, what would have been?
The 90s? I probably would have gone European.
Really? Oh, okay.
Probably Audi or...
oh, that makes sense. Because I mean, you had the Audi, what was it? The Audi 900, I think? The 4-door?
Yeah, I don't remember the number.
There's some pretty cool ones.
There were some cool Saabs.
Oh yeah, great Saabs came out in that time. Volvos were amazing. Again, European cars just
and
reliable.
As you know by the name of our broadcast, we love coupes and hatches. The Volvo wagon, there was a turbo version. Dude. It just was.
When did the Volvo Bertone come out? That's a freaking cool car.
Yeah, I think that was in the late 70s. They took a normal coupe and then Bertone chopped it. So.
Bertone is a outsourced car design company, kind of like how Shelby does stuff, Celine, anything in that realm. So Bertone is like a European one. ProDrive is like Subaru's go-to and stuff like that. So
the Volvo Bertone, it's still on the list.
Oh, for sure. If you have a Bertone, let me know. We are talking. That's a freaking cool car. Yeah, so 90s obviously was just owned by JDM cars. Japanese domestic, what was that? Off the top of my head, I'm just forgetting everything now. But yeah, so we had the 3000 GT. We've got the S chassis Nissans. Obviously, the RX-7 in that realm was another term that we use is a god car. So these are cars that if they show up, even destroyed to a car meet, you're still cool. RX-7 is on that list. Mark IV Supras.
The twin turbo Supra. Yeah, that's what you just said.
Yeah, the Supra.
He rattles off all these names, and I just know what the badge says. It says Supra.
Yep. So Mark IV means the 4th generation. So the round body one. Fast and Furious made it popular. But for me, the most iconic one. Oh, this is creme de la creme. The 22B. Subaru's 22B coupe. Oh man. Okay. So
to me, that's like an Odin level car.
Oh
just awesome.
Yeah, Odin level means Quattro, 22B, NSX for sure.
Do you remember that car meet we went to in your RS, and we'd been out playing in the dirt the day before.
Oh yeah.
We didn't even wash it.
No, it was covered in dirt.
Showed up, pulled it in backwards, and there was about 15, 20 people around it.
Yeah.
Right next to some other super cool, super expensive Subarus.
Yeah, they were like on bags. These things were putting out like 400 horsepower. They were fully built, and I'm there, not boosted, with some pretty, like, they were just fiberglass. No, at this point I had my ABS flares on there.
Little janky flares.
Yeah, it's like a lip, but I had just mobbed this thing through the dirt, and I was on my BBSs, and it just had this like track style to it, and it was just covered in mud, and it was cool because people were lining up to take pictures of that, and I was like, now that's how you Subaru.
Yeah. It got way more attention than the other cars.
Yeah, but it's because it's that car. Like, I could even show up no fenders and still like show up and be like, dude, that's a freaking 22B coupe. Like, obviously it's not bodied or it's not labeled as a 22B because it's not boosted, it's not wide body.
Yeah, it's 2.5.
Yeah, so it's the American version, it's the dumbed down version. But I mean, that was my dream car, and I have one now. I've had it for about 6 to 7 years, and it's gone through a bit of transformation, and I'm finally getting to boosting it, so I'll be at the 22B status, which is super cool. But yeah, that was the 90s. It was just dominated by Japanese cars because at that point everyone wanted good gas mileage, fun to drive, but didn't cost a ton on like insurances and stuff like that. And in Europe, doing big motors, or not in Europe, in Japan, they don't have a lot of big V8s and big motors like we do here because they get charged more on their taxes because of it. And so that's why you see a lot of 3.0 straight 6s or just like 3.0s in general. 3 liters is a 3.0.
Well, that's also one of the reasons for the little Japanese micro cars.
Oh yeah, the K cars.
Yeah, K cars.
Yeah, K cars are cool, dude. If you have a K car, I want to talk to you. That's awesome.
They're cars that have to be less than 90 cc's.
Yeah, well, they have to be less than 1,000 cc's, I think, like that. They have to weigh under a certain amount. All of them are coupes.
They're just these tiny little. There's a few convertibles, but these tiny little cars, which are just super cool now.
They're super unique. You can get one imported to the States for like $7,000, and they're reliable as crap. Because especially if you can get like a Honda one, that's a Honda motorcycle motor. Tell me a Honda motorcycle motor that isn't reliable.
Yeah,
you can't. Like,
so that's a whole nother series of cars.
We'll do a K car series and explain what each one's cool in their own way.
But they were built to get around the rules of taxes,
emissions,
registering,
and whatnot,
and also insurance.
Yeah, because I know here in the States, I believe you can register them as. I don't know if you can register them as a motorcycle. I think in some places you can because of because it's technically underneath a car size CCs, but it is 4 wheels, so that, I don't know. I think that's state to state. That seems like a Florida thing. Like, I feel like Florida would be like, oh, you're on a ride chicken? Cool, you can register that. Like,
yeah, super cool cars.
Yeah. But then I think we get into, and at this point, like, the 60s muscle cars kind of saved the car scene in the 70s. They kind of just floated because, like, we didn't really have much of an option. I think the 80s started, that's when you got all the square bodies coming in, and so you got some really cool cars. I mean, how did we forget the Grand?
The Gran Torino?
No, not the Gran Torino. The Buick.
Oh. Is it Grand Am?
Yeah, I don't know. That's not
Why
right.
are we forgetting everything?
I don't know. Anyways, there's a Buick that was even faster than a Corvette, and it's like iconic. We'll come back to those ones. I think that car deserves like a full episode because it's really cool. And so the 80s kind of got like a good little like bump in it, a good little revamp, especially now that you had Euros and JDM cars coming in. And so the scene started to kind of diverse itself really nicely. But the 90s, I feel, has like really when like enthusiasts outside of muscle cars really started to come alive because the cars were cheap, they're accessible, they're everywhere, parts are cheap, and you could do it almost whenever you wanted to them, which was really cool. But I think in 2000 is like really where cars came alive.
Well, like up here, you posted the Prowler.
Yes, sir.
Since I'm a 60s, 70s hot rod guy, the only disappointing part of this was it didn't have a big Hemi shoved in it.
Yeah.
But the styling of it change the world.
I mean, look at it.
I mean, seriously, it looks like what you see every year at the Detroit Auto Show with everybody's prototype cars that you hope they make but never do.
They never do.
Well, this one actually was produced, and it's just a beautiful design. And I think you were mentioning that Foose had something to do.
So I think this is when Foose was still like going to school, and I
don't get it wrong, he'll kill you.
I know.
Not really.
He won't. That man's so nice. He is an Odin level person in the car world for us. Like Shelby is up there. He is also at that level. But yeah, I believe the original designs for the Prowler or the PT Cruiser came from Foose, and they somehow made it into Dodge and Chrysler. And they're like, sick, let's use these. I don't know the full story or the background on that.
I have to research that one.
But yeah, Chip Foose is a big reason why cars are the way cars are now, which is kind of crazy. Because you got this like mad retro design that came in and everyone went freaking nuts.
Along with the Prowler was the PT Cruiser with styling, performance
hold up.
Just a fancy grocery getter.
I mean, you can't just smirk at the performance. That thing came in a GT Touring Edition, boosted.
The one edition is definitely...
that car was awesome because you could customize that car out of factory. It came from the factory with flames.
That's true.
Like, that. When you think about that, you're like, that's dumb in the best way possible. But, I mean, look at what Dodge is doing now. It's the same thing. You're like, what are you doing? Thank you for doing it.
Another one that I personally like the styling of is the HHR after a 40s Suburban type.
Yeah, I wish. Oh, I know what would have topped that thing off if it had barn doors.
Yeah.
Man, that would have been cool. And its brother, I think you can call it that, the Chevy SSR SS, the funky truck that's like a Camino but not.
Yeah, I'm not
super
sure what that
weird.
Is. Convertible truck, Camino car.
But it kind of makes the list if I want it because I don't understand it.
Yeah, it would be fun. Remember the lady down in St. George that she had?
Yeah, she had the wood
painted with wood paneling.
Yeah,
down
so
the side.
she painted wood paneling on it, and it was so good looking. Like, awesome. Amazing car. Yeah. That family's cool. Like, super cool family.
Should roll up and. Definitely.
Oh yeah, and you could tell she loved it. It was totally her thing, and she you saw her, and you're like, well, that's the only car you can ever drive. It's perfect, and it just made sense. And she's an old lady, that's so cool. Yeah, and so it's cool to see that. That's a great example that styling hit everybody because at that point they also brought the Dodge Neon in, and that hit that lower, almost that tuner vibe. And then they had the Prowler, which hit the old school vibe. And so, all these crazy cars were coming in. The Mustang got a great revamp. And they brought back the sequential lights. Ooh! Sequential lights will forever be cool. I don't care what it's on.
And then the Challenger and Charger made a rebirth.
Yep, that was a little bit later. But the hard part...
The 2000s?
Yeah, they're in the 2000s. The hard part about this time period, though, was... all the car manufacturers were ready for a car scene rebirth in the 60s, but 2008 kind of killed that, which kind of sucks. Just like how the gas crisis killed the car scene in the 70s, the recession hit in 2008, and so all these cool cars were coming out, but they're in the 30K range, and 30K then is probably close to 45, pushing maybe 50, and it was not only hard to get cool cars because they're expensive and with the recession, but just working on your car was hard because of all the parts and everything and stuff like that. And so the car scene kind of took a dip in the 2000s, which was really sad because the car manufacturers were totally there ready to back it up for us.
And the one thing that I really remember really changed the automotive world, which may or may not make sense, as everything was going rounder, back to the 20s, 30s style cars was when Dodge went from the D100 or the D series to the round fender, big chrome.
Yeah,
grill, almost a semi looking truck versus a big square box.
Yeah, so it's kind of the more standard Ram that we're all kind of used to seeing, a big bubbly one.
Yeah, but when that came out, it just rocked the entire car industry
I can't
because
imagine.
it was just so far different than what Ford and Chevy was doing and what Dodge was doing before that. Because if you look at the Dodge when they came out with the diesel, just this big, huge square truck.
Oh, they're just cinder blocks. This is a cinder block on wheels with a transmission and motor. That was it.
I mean, that really changed the styling of a lot of things, and it made a huge impact. And I obviously just loved it. Then they came out with the Durango, which was really super.
What was the one that was on your desk though?
That was the Durango.
It was the Shelby Durango. So that was a super interesting time because Shelby had teamed up with like Dodge for a while.
It made quite a few funky.
A ton of them. You can get a Dodge Dakota Shelby. It's a convertible. Like, that's crazy.
What was the little...
Ooh, the Omni.
The Omni.
Ooh, okay, so the Omni, untouched, trash can. But the Omni GLH, awesome. They didn't sell very great because it's an Omni. It was a commuter car that Shelby just like, I want to have fun with it. And so he did. But they didn't sell great. And so he actually bought, I think the last like 500 himself.
What does GLH stand for?
Goes like hell. Excuse, I don't know. I'm not going to excuse that one. That makes sense. That was his thing.
Car.
Yeah. But I think he bought like the last 500 or so, if I remember right. And he made the GLH X, which took the GLH and it turned it into a monster at this point. Like, he made a super hatch. But the S stands for some more. So this was called the Omni Goes Like Hell Some More. Not some more, but one word, s'more. This man took a dessert and slapped it onto a car. Like, that's two very American things, and you just made a very American hatch. Freaking cool. Thank you, Shelby.
He also made a couple other Dodge.
Yeah,
what was that little red car?
Oh, the one I had, my Daytona. Okay,
the Daytona.
Let's get this straight. It's not a Charger Daytona. It's not a Challenger Daytona. It's not even like the original Challenger Daytona. This thing has its own name called the Daytona, and it's only weird. Great, but
Shelby.
Weird.
There was a Shelby version of that.
Yeah, you could just get like a 2.4 turbo. Like, they had gasket issues out the freaking roof, dude. Like,
yeah, that didn't happen to yours. Nope.
Nope. That's not why I got rid of it. It is exactly why I got rid of it. So, but yeah, that was... He's up there. He's in the Odin level, for sure. Foose, you are up in that level as well. Honestly, actually, a dude here, I feel, is in that level as well. And that is... I forgot his name. He does the show Bitchin' Rides.
Kindig.
Yeah, Kindig, that guy. You can build a car, sir. Every single time. We've been going to car shows here in Utah forever, and he's been at those car shows forever, so to see his evolution is probably really cool. Like,
because he was showing up to the Utah car scene, the big shows, long before his
TV
show.
The slammed white Mustang. The first time we saw that, dude, we both just melted. Like, incredible car.
His Volkswagen bus is insane.
Oh, yeah. Especially inserting the extra windows like that.
Those were what we were looking at when we first started going to the big scene car shows here. And also, thanks for giving my daughter a tour of your place.
Oh, yeah, you are the coolest freaking guy. Like,
that was awesome.
Seriously, your entire team's amazing, dude. Like, you guys have the coolest setup, I think, in Utah, in my opinion.
Oh, by far.
By far. But yeah, so that's kind of the 2000s. 2008 kind of ended it, but then we still had the muscle cars, and so there were still people buying them and stuff like that. But I think the one that really kind of revamped the JDM scene at this point, because we still had like the Subaru WRX and stuff like that, but they've been doing the same platform for like 20 years, and so at this point, yes, they are cool cars, they are great cars, but they're the same car, and so you kind of just like, okay, that's just a different face, and so it kind of was just a repeat. But at this point, that's also when Nissan brought the GTR in, not a Skyline, but the GTR as we know it, and that car changed the world again.
Super cool car.
launch control. That thing was basically a computer, dude.
All-wheel drive.
All-wheel drive. V6 twin turbo. And anyone can drive it and feel safe.
Super fast.
Amazing car. Especially like what it was going up against at the time. Like, that's it has the same effect as the new Corvette C8.
Yeah.
Of, you want to kill a supercar? Here's a GTR. Like, that's freaking cool. And it wasn't that expensive compared to Ferraris, Lambos, Maseratis. Like, even the high-end Mercedes. I mean, they've always pumped out power, but the fact that at that point, all we saw from Nissan were like the Versa and all these like commuter cars, and so for them just to drop a bomb like that in 2009, everyone's like, "What? This is gonna be interesting." And I think that started a whole nother scene of kids my age getting into it, because like I was used to seeing, like you said, stuff like the 60s Mustangs and all these classic cars. And we just needed a refresh, was all.
Look, the cars from the 60s and 70s and earlier were pretty much all that car shows were about.
Oh, for sure. And every once in a while there's some JDMs, like 240s that were like 350 swapped or whatever.
It seemed like there was a gap in time when there really wasn't a whole lot of car shows. I know the street that we used to go cruise in my hometown, it got shut down in the mid-80s, later 80s. Just because the police didn't want to put up with them, cities didn't want to put up with it anymore.
That is a weird thought to think that California did not have a car scene for a second. Like, obviously it was there, but not like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everybody still was working on their stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like Van Nuys Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard.
I mean, even cruising State Street.
Middle and High, State Street was a famous car.
Yeah, that like cruising State Street outside of motorcycles just wasn't a thing.
It just didn't exist. So to see people now, and it's cool with the internet because you'll have pop-up car meets, or hey, we're meeting here, or hey, we want to go for a drive, meet it in and out, or meet at Starbucks.
How is that for you guys in organizing stuff? For us now, it's just like make an event on Facebook, share the event, your friends share it. Super simple, everyone has the details. But what was that like for you guys? What was the process?
Calling on the phone, dialing. And then the cord attached to the wall. It was just kind of a standard. We had standard Wednesday night, Friday night, Saturday night cruise, and it was just standard. And everybody, the different groups all kind of knew about. Well, it doesn't really get rock until 8:30, so let's show up at 8:45.
What was cruising like for you guys after that? Like, would you show up to the meet and then organize a cruise, or was there standard cruises too?
No, it was just all about parking, and the same people kind of parked in the same areas.
Oh, cool.
We had the car wash by the Arby's, was our main hangout, and so we were just always there. Anybody wanted to find us,
you just knew.
Especially in the summer months when you didn't have school. It was like, hey, well, we know where they'll be.
Yeah, like Friday night, everyone's going
at the car wash.
That's super interesting, because I feel like we're almost getting back to that. I mean, our bike night here, every Friday, or I'm in and out, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And also every Wednesday night is
European night, same spot. And I mean, and it's always In and Out. Thank you, In and Out, for being like welcoming of the car community, because I know especially now, like the car community in general can be rowdy, and so the fact that every In and Out just puts up with it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You're an incredible company.
Thank you, appreciate it. Love your burgers.
Yes. But yeah, let's get more into I guess what is now our current phase, which would be the 2010 to the future. Because 2010, everyone started going big horsepower and emissions.
Let's rewind for a second. One car that we somehow have overlooked is the Dodge Viper.
Oh man, the Viper. You know who made the Viper? Shelby.
It's kind of out there in its own little world, similar to the Corvette in the 60s, but you can't overlook that.
Oh, especially the ACR edition. The ACR edition is so cool because it, from the factory, has to come with so much downforce to keep it down in the corners. This thing will literally turn into a plane. So if you want a jet for like, $260K for an ACR? I don't know how much they're going for it. Just take the wing and the splitter off. You're there. Elon, you're gonna catch up to Elon in seconds. Don't do that. Do not do that. Oh man, the Viper. It's sad to see. I think it was 2014 was the last one or something. They recently ended. Hopefully it comes back. It gets a good rebirth. I mean that's Dodge. They do that a lot. So fingers crossed that we get another cool one. Yeah. So then we hop into where we are now. I think the car scene now has gone through such an interesting revamp compared to all the other ones, because I feel like all the other ones had a natural course of a revamp. There was the economy either pushed it out or helped grow it, and so you kind of had this back and forth movement. But I think with how you're saying, the internet now makes cars so much more accessible.
Well, and everybody's posting pictures of their cars.
And everything.
Events, and the word just spreads so fast. I mean, one person can say, hey, I feel like cruising the canyon tonight, and 30, 40 people show up.
Yeah.
Or, you'll see half of them say, oh, I wish I knew earlier, or oh, I got this going on or that going on. But, you just stay in touch with everybody, and you can organize so fast. Yeah. Like, there was one night somebody organized, and the mall filled up. How many cars were there? Like, probably...
Oh, was this one of the Utah Weekend Car Meet ones when we moved?
Yeah.
When we parking lot hopped? Yeah, this was the beginning of the season.
A couple thousand.
Wow, this was huge beat. And so we went into this first lot, and I don't know if we were supposed to be there or not. I didn't organize it.
Just filled it up. One of those huge strip malls.
Yeah.
And
massive.
It just filled the whole thing up. So people trying to come in for dinner.
Yeah, and there's a bowling alley that has a massive parking lot on the backside. I don't think it's active anymore. But that entire parking lot behind that still filled up.
It was still closed for COVID.
Just huge.
So then it got too big, and so they came in to shut it down. Everybody just moved across the street
to the mall parking lot, and it was just as big, and it was the same thing. The weird part is no one even decided that. We all just did it.
Yeah.
That was, and it just happened. And so I was like, it's so cool to see it that. Oh man, it's getting shut down. We're not done yet, and we just keep going. And so I think even when I was growing up in the car scene, I think my first actual car scene car I was going to meets consistently and stuff was probably my Mini.
Yeah.
And so that my first Mini, not the one that you guys saw last week. And even when it was like that, it was still very I was part of the Mini group for a while. They're fantastic here. And so it was more group-based type stuff. So to see it kind of opening back up into that parking lot style that you grew up in is really exciting, because I think I've told you for probably close to 5 years that's where I want to see the car scene go again.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so much fun, and back then we weren't out causing trouble or grief. It kind of slowly went away from cars and just became a nuisance hangout, and that's why the city shut it down. But and it's just about cars, and people show up. It doesn't matter in the car meets now what we show up in.
No,
it doesn't matter at all. It just, you have a cool car.
Yep.
And you just take it, whether it's from the 40s or 50s or 60s, or some people are showing up in funky 80 editions. This one, I remember a few weeks ago we saw an old Riviera.
Oh, dude, that thing was sick. That's one of the coolest freaking cars, because I think it has an LCD screen or a digital screen in it, and this was from the 80s.
Yeah.
I think it looks like a spaceship.
Yeah, so he showed up and his car was surrounded by people checking it out.
Super cool.
Hey, this is pretty cool. I'm surprised it still runs. I'm glad you made it here.
Seriously. I'm excited to see where the car scene is going, because I feel like it's going to be so much bigger if we keep it on the organized side, not the none of these street takeover stuff. Street takeovers will ruin the car world. Yeah, definitely. So stop, please, for the love, stop those. There's no point.
And stupid stuff like revving your engines and doing burnouts down the street when you leave the parking lot. It's not the drag tack.
Just chill. You're good.
Just stick it.
You're fine.
Low and go. I mean, you don't need to be burning rubber.
I'll be honest. Every once in a while, someone will ask me what the FRS sounds like, because I think the FRS sounds really unique for what it is. Yeah, and so I think maybe a here and there is fine in the car meet. Don't be the guy that's just stop. One, yes, you might have two-step or whatever. If your car is tuned for it, cool. But, like, people are trying to have conversations, and, like, a cool car doesn't have to prove that it's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
it just is. Like, if it's a cool car, it literally just has to be there, and you're fine.
Unless you're at, obviously at an organized event.
Yeah, if there's an exhaust comp, freaking rip it, please.
Well, it's kind of funny because in Utah, and maybe the same for other areas. We spent a weekend down in Long Beach not too long ago.
Oh man!
And each type
Hold up, before we get more into that, Mikey, thank you for taking us to so many meets. It was back to back because of you. And you are an absolute clutch, so thank you. I'll tag his information in the YouTube video. Follow him. He does a lot of really interesting styled videos on meets down there. So definitely follow him. He's cool.
Yeah, and thanks for getting us connected. But there were groups that were just a certain type of car, which is super cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like you showed up to European night here, and some guy was like, "You're not a European car. What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I've got a couple at home, so knock it off." But anyway, we still have the old school car shows, mainly put on by the cities or restaurants that always have first night
groups or whatever.
And a lot of those are just the old classics, the hot rods.
I mean, there's a Corvette group in literally every city, so that will always be a car show.
And Good Guys always puts on an incredible show.
Yep.
A wide variety, but when you go to the pop-up meets or Cars and Coffee or whatever,
it's everything.
Occasionally the supercar group will get together and they don't care.
No, I mean
who shows up.
I mean, South Valley Photo, follow them, and Dirty Pipes. All of them have R8s. They show up and they'll talk to literally anybody and just be hyped about their car just as much as that person is hyped about their R8. That's such a great example of how to be a car person now, and I love that because it's just straight mutual respect for whatever it is. It's like, okay, it might not be my build, it might not be my taste, but the car scene now I feel like is getting to the point where we can really appreciate where work is being put into and how it's being done. I'm excited for that. It's cool.
For us, that's what it's all about. You see some guys, some jerks who are making fun of other cars, and it's just knock it off.
And
somebody's spending all their time and effort to build something.
Yeah.
We need to appreciate what they're doing to it. And
for sure.
The different styles. I mean, we have the big truck.
Yeah.
Truck guys, little truck guys. They're all here and they all show up.
Well, and plus their budget might not be like yours. Their knowledge on how to do things, they could very well just be learning off of YouTube. And so they're just trying their best. And you can't hate someone for doing that. And so I think that it's cool that we're able to establish this now in the car scene, because I honestly feel like it's going to explode, especially here in Utah.
Yeah, it's going to get bigger.
It's going to get massive. It's going to get insane. So if we can set a good example on how to treat other people in the car scene, the future cars that we're going to see are going to get even more respect because of that. And I think for me, the hardest part that's going to be a change is accepting electric cars into the car scene, just because it's so different. But they do deserve the respect. They are incredible. Their efficiencies are amazing.
Oh, and your sister just ordered her Tesla.
She
Y,
did.
So
she is getting
soon.
One of her dream cars, and I'm so excited for her. And it'll be cool to see what they do with that compared to how we build cars, because it's going to be completely different. It's going to be so cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. There's no doubt they're stinking fast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And fun to ride. And my buddy that has one of the small Teslas, he has the high performance small Tesla. When he took me for a spin, I was dealing with some vertigo at the time, and
did you throw up in his car?
Almost.
Oh, gross.
He hit that sucker for a very short distance because we were in traffic, but just set the vertigo off. And the whole rest of the ride, I was appreciating the ride when he put it on auto drive. That was kind of freaky. Is he just sitting there kicking back? We're just talking about how
That's so cool.
somebody chewed him out for leaving his dog in there, and he's like,
They have a dog mode.
it's like, look at my dash right there in big letters, dog mode.
Yeah, that's crazy. They have the AC on, the car's not running, but like it just works. Like
we were talking about that as he's just driving, not even touching the steering wheel or the gas. The car's driving. That kind of freaked me out. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. I don't even like launch control. So
it's just the instant torque compared to the horsepower game. It's just different.
Yeah.
And the amount of torque that you can immediately get is definitely respectable, and it's really ironic, especially I think in our situations, because we kind of build cars based around torque, but we don't like electric cars fully yet. And so we're like, this car is already built exactly how we build cars, and we're like, nah. Like, one day we'll get there though. Well,
it's not the same as
no,
the
but
SRT Hemi.
yeah, I think we'll just kind of wrap it up by just talking about where the car world's going, because I'm so excited to see what it's turning into. Because like, we'll talk mainly about probably 3 or 4 different cars. One, obviously, as you can tell, the new Z. The new Z, I think, is probably the most driver-centric car we have seen probably since the GTR came out. And my reason being is stick shift is a standard, 6-speed stick shift on top of that, not a 5-speed. You get a 6-cylinder twin turbo rear wheel drive, and it's light as crap.
That's gonna be sick.
They haven't put a price point on it. My guess is between 30 to 45-ish, depending on the model.
And dealer markup.
Oh yeah. I learned about this actually yesterday. My favorite new part about the Z is they brought back the rear quarter panel badge. That's a turn signal now.
Is it?
Yeah, it lights up. That's your side marker. Freaking awesome. Before it was just a little badge. So like, cool, but like.
What other one jumps out on you on that list?
Oh man, that's hard. I mean, the new FRS that's coming out. I mean, the FRS platform is a great revamp, especially comparing it to the old 8.6. Great car to bring back.
It's gotten a lot of bad rap just because it's not fast, but it's
so fun.
Seriously fun car to drive. And he tells me to stop talking about it, but it's such a raw car. It doesn't even tell me when I'm going to run out of gas.
No.
It's that raw. So, and obviously ours is probably not one of the
No, it's not boosted. It's not like...
It was on the lot. It was a super good deal.
Yep.
I fell in love with them when they came out, and so it's like I gotta have
great commuter. It really is a phenomenal commuter.
And I bought it just as a daily to get me around town.
Yeah, we've done a little bit of sense to it, but
you know, it has such a good platform to do modifications.
For sure.
It can be an insane car, but I saw a little clip on the new one, and it's
the new 2.4 that they're putting in there. It's just getting a good torque bump everywhere. But that's what that car kind of needed.
But
so
still not turbo, but
nope, still cool. Also, and supposedly Lexus, it's been spotted only in like a concept. There is a drivable one. It's called a UC. So if Lexus is getting their hands on that platform, you can bet there's going to be a massive luxury version that's just going to be bougie.
Version of
dude,
that would be sick.
That I didn't even think about that. That's going to be gnarly.
That'd be cool.
But I think if anything stands out the most to me on this list, it's actually an electric car. And I think the Audi RS3 has done a really good job as an homage to the original Quattro. But there's a company called E-Legend that is making a electric version of a Quattro. So they took the styling and everything modernized it. It's still super wide, but they're using the Porsche Taycan system as an electric system, and I think that's
a sick car.
That's cool because if they do it right, they just made a driver-centric electric car, and that's what I feel Tesla's missing. And so if you're filling this gap, I think there's going to be a lot of guys like me that are going to convert real quick, and that's a weird thing to say.
The one I like a lot up on that list. Well, there's 2. Actually, they're both trucks.
Really?
Yeah, the Ford Lightning.
Oh, the new Lightning, dude. Let's take a minute on that thing.
Yeah, we were in San Pedro talking to a guy that had restored one of the original Lightnings.
This
thing was
best slam truck ever. I have some pictures of it. I'll put it up on our Instagram and like edit it and whatnot. It literally is the best slam truck I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean he did it right. It was just beautiful.
The craziest part about that vehicle, it was on NOS, and this dude put a tank wrap, like a wrap, on the tank of the NOS container of the NOS energy drink. Like, freaking awesome, dude.
That was for his bags.
Was that the bags? Either way,
Yeah.
still freaking cool. Bagged Lightning on NOS. Like, what?
Yeah, so we were talking to him about, okay, what do you think about the new Lightning? It's just interesting, and I love the name. There's some names they come out with that just do not fit. Like,
Dodge, we're looking at you on this one, particularly for the Dart.
To me, a Dart is a square thing with a big old motor sticking in it and fast. And you came out with the little, it's a neon. Call it the neon.
Oh, if they would have neon SRT Ford that, dude, that would totally be, that would have been a great throwback, too.
But Lightning is the perfect name for
the new Lightning.
The new Lightning, since it's electric.
Yeah,
and
it's
Lightning
electric.
Obviously is electric.
Coolest feature, though, on that vehicle. Yeah, and I'm going to pronounce this very slowly so it doesn't sound like I'm swearing, is the frunk. The frunk.
The what?
Front trunk.
Okay.
It doesn't need a motor.
Call Webster, we have a new word.
Yep. Since the electric motors and everything are underneath the vehicle, you now have a trunk in a truck. Like, you don't need a cargo cab deck anymore. You can just have both. That's awesome. You know how much easier road trips just got?
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool. And then you said the other one was a truck, too.
Yeah, and there's definitely no room in the front of that for your luggage.
No, the only room that there's left for this is just air.
It's the T-Rex, which to me is...
well, okay, it's technically called a TRX, because they can't... Dodge is being silly about it. Everyone calls it a T-Rex. But, I mean, dude.
Yeah, serious.
707 horsepower in an off-road truck. That truck, when they originally marketed it, and it was like a concept market, I believe, I can't remember if it was the announcer saying it, or if it was the words that popped up, but they announced it as, go 100 miles an hour. Everywhere. What?
You never go 100 miles an hour on the streets.
No, but I don't recommend doing it in the dirt, but if you do it in the dirt, please send me a video, because you're crazy, and I like that.
To me, one of those rolls through a car show, it just... just like...
Anything that is underneath the height of that vehicle is squished. Like, sorry.
Yeah, just a beautiful
truck. Notably, I think the new Cadillac Blackwing is definitely notable.
It's definitely not your father's caddy.
No,
for sure.
You get a standard stick shift with the Corvette motor.
That rocks.
The downside to that now, so it's basically they took a CTSV and they bumped it up even more. The downside to the Blackwing is it is supposedly Caddy's last high-performance vehicle, so the CTSV might be going away.
That's sad.
Because even any model of the CTSV was really cool, because in the first gen, you could get it in a stick shift. Second gen, you got a bigger motor, but only in an automatic. And so, it's kind of a give and take, but I mean... So, it would be kind of sad to see it go, and I think it had... Honestly, I think it's had a really good run. It made a really good impact in a really unique way.
Yeah, seriously. Cool.
For sure. And then I think another notable one is, we've already talked about it a couple times, but that's because it's forever going to be a cool car, is the new NSX Type S.
Yeah.
That's insane, dude.
Can't wait for that.
Just the standard one now, tuned, can get 700 horsepower reliably. So you just made an S model. Like,
that's crazy.
That's insane. And then just to list off some other few, you guys can't see them. The new Supra is obviously really cool. I know it's getting a lot of hate for being a Beamer motor, but I mean, it's proven to be a great motor. So like, I don't think it's a bad option. Plus, there's two of them roll up at the Euro meet now. So like, you can go to any meet in that car. Freaking cool.
But who made the 2J? I mean, that's what's
Yamaha. Yamaha made the 2J. So like,
it's in the Lexus. And
yeah,
that's an iconic.
So should I pull up to the bike meet? No, I wouldn't do that. The DeLorean is coming back. Okay, they've been talking about bringing back the DeLorean since 2014. It is officially announced, but it is a limited run. I think there's only like 500 cars or something like that.
That'll be interesting.
Still cool. I don't know if they're going to be doing a just a revamp or just like rebuilding it. They haven't really gone into that quite yet. But I mean, DeLorean has so much back history to it. It's just kind of crazy. And then
you said the Ferrari Dino's making a comeback.
Yes, your Dino's coming back.
As a kid, there was a neighbor that had one, and I'd walk home to and from school and go the longer route home, just hoping the garage door was open so I could
pray
at it. And back then it was like a $15,000 car.
Yeah, try to find one now for that much.
Yeah, they're pushing 200 for a good one.
Yeah, it's insane. But the interesting thing about this Dino is a V6. So that tells me it's most likely a hybrid, or it's going to have a ton of boost.
Yeah. So in the last one on your list, you said that the new Hummer has the ability to crash.
Yeah. Okay. So the new, there's been a couple that are built. One of my buddies actually saw one, and he says it's about the size of the Statue of Liberty. Like, they're huge.
Because I saw a video just today while I was waiting to get my haircut, and to me it looked like somebody took the new Bronco and beefed it all up.
Oh, it's massive.
But it was crabbing down the street.
Yeah, so it can do what's called a crab walk, and that it can move side to side. Not like turn side to side, but it can move straight and side to side like this at you. The advantages to that is mainly in crawling situations. You'll be able to put it in crab mode and be able to push past stuff. So
that'd be pretty cool. I'll have to see if I can find that video and see if that's what it was.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
It was
Pretty cool notable things about that is it's electric, super cool, and inside parts of like the plastic and whatnot, there are parts. There's maps like carved into the plastic that are from the moon. So you have the moon's map on. I don't know what you're gonna do trying to get to the moon, but I mean,
it's pretty cool.
You got it. At least you know where to go. But yeah, so there's also the GMC Cyclone has come back.
Can't wait for that.
Super. That one's in production. You can literally go buy one right now. Super cool. It's gas powered, so I think it's cool that the 3 muscle trucks came back. Obviously, Little Red didn't, but Dodge replaced that with TRX. Cyclone comes back. So
Dodge also did the.
They have the Trackhawk, the Jeep.
Well, the Trackhawk and the V10 Dodge.
Oh yeah, they've had the Viper powered Dodge.
Year.
Yeah, those fantastic vehicles, super cool.
If you like 3 miles to the gallon.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, there's a lot of potential here, and it's interesting to see that it's so almost even with electric cars and gas cars that it's weird to see where it's gonna go. I think electric cars are definitely gonna get the bump at some point, but I also really hope hydrogen cars come in, just because I think it's a really good alternative. Plus, the only emission you have is water. I don't think I'd drink it, but I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. I wouldn't know.
It can't be as bad as alcohol for you, right? Like,
I don't drink alcohol, so I don't know. I've seen drunk people, so
people are getting drunk on their hydrogen power. Man, I just had a rough day at work. Just put a canister just under the exhaust, take a little sip. Woo! White lightning.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, but yeah, we're excited for it. And again, thank you guys for the support.
Wait, I have one question.
Oh, yes?
When do I get a cool chair? This is very uncomfortable.
No, what? You have a pillow. I do have a lumbar pillow that adjusts though, so.
If I'm over, watching TV.
True. I don't know. Do you guys think he deserves a chair?
Yeah, give me a chair.
Give you a chair?
Give me a chair.
Give you a chair. Okay. Should we let our friends decide what color for you?
Not pink.
In that case, yes. You guys get to choose what color his chair is going to be. Or if he just takes this chair, then I end up in a pink chair. So.
Okay, well, I can handle pink because when my daughter got a new puppy, one day I went to go pick up my other daughter from her friends, and the only vehicle home was the pink Jeep. So
with sparkly fenders.
yes, and so in bringing a brand new puppy, I didn't want it peeing everywhere, even though I know how to clean that stuff.
This was
my job.
It was a tiny white puppy too. So this is like the most like California vibe you can think of.
So I'm sitting at a stoplight with a little white puppy on my lap in a big pink Jeep. And the car of 4 ladies roll up and they're just laughing their heads off. And I'm like, roll your window down. I say, come on, it's my daughter's. And they're like, is that her puppy too? So, you know, if you can handle driving a pink Jeep around, I can sit in a pink chair. But
yeah,
hey, you know, red or blue, cobalt blue would be cool. You know, I mean, black's cool.
Yeah, well, it's not bad. But
yeah, so anyway, my back hurts after this.
All right. In that case, he definitely needs a chair. We're still gonna let you guys choose the color though. Again, thank you guys so much for just all the support with sharing and liking and all the comments and stuff. It's honestly, I didn't expect it. I
hope for it, but
yeah, it kind of blows my mind, and I can't tell you guys how much both of us appreciate you. And because this is honestly feels like what we're supposed to be doing. And again, if you guys have any questions, you have any suggestions, other than getting him a pink chair, just shoot it. We have an email. Our email is couponhatch@gmail.
Yeah, you know, shoot us picture or post pictures of your cars.
Yeah, if you want your pictures up on here, I love going over people's builds. Like we actually hope to have another series where they'll either bring someone in that has a really cool car. We'll talk about how they built it, why they built it, and stuff like that. So if you want to do that, please hit me up. I would love to do interviews with just people that are enthusiastic about their cars, and especially if it's a unique car, please hit me up.
Yeah, if you have an AMX, definitely let us know.
Or if you have a Volvo Bertone,
oh yeah,
what do you need? Yeah, again, thank you guys. We honestly do love you. And have a great Wednesday. That's
See
it.
ya. Ciao.
Ciao.